How safe are you from car crime?
How long does it take to get the cars in this way?
Well, it's like having the key, isn't it?
The intruders breaking into your home to steal keys.
I feel because of the car that I chose to buy, I've put our family almost at risk for having that car there.
Is vehicle theft a police priority?
The vast majority of day-to-day police work is not directly concerned with crime.
And just how vulnerable could your keyless car be?
Some of the more high-end executive vehicles are actually easier to steal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tonight programme. Government figures published last month reveal yet another increase in car thefts. But how much of this is down to it being a low police priority? Former Metropolitan Police Officer Rav Wilding uncovers whether car crime is being investigated properly and why so many new vehicles are vulnerable to tech-savvy thieves.
After years of falling crime rates, car theft is on the rise again, significantly. Up an estimated 57,000 crimes in 2 years. This time last year, Tonight reported on the problem in Manchester. We were out with the police.
What we see more and more often now is people breaking into houses to get the key, to get the car, because that's the only way they can get it with the key.
And talking to victims.
We were woken by the dogs barking. Mark got up, look out the bedroom window.
When you look out and see three guys in balaclavas, you realise that it's business.
A year on, we've decided to return to South Manchester to find out how big the problem is now. This is an area of Stockport called the Heatons. Here, there's approximately 12,500 homes spread over a few square miles. Tonight obtained data from Greater Manchester Police for the number of vehicle thefts experienced in this suburb just for October.
On the first day of the month on this street, a house was broken into, keys were taken and a car was stolen. On the same night, just around the corner, another break-in. This time, 3 sets of keys were stolen and 3 cars were taken. 4 days later, again in the same area, another house was broken into, another set of keys taken and another car stolen.
And so this pattern continued, day after day, street after street. In total, for this suburb of Stockport, 19 vehicles were stolen. That's over 3 a week. And that doesn't include the dozens of car break-ins and number plate thefts. Across the whole of South Manchester, the figure could run into hundreds. And that's just 1 month. Katie and Mark Hawley and Mike Holman's family both had their cars stolen in South Manchester last month. In both cases, thieves broke into their houses first to steal car keys. But despite a financial loss, it was having thieves in their house they found most traumatic.
You just feel completely and utterly violated, especially with children. The thought of someone coming into your house and being there while you're fast asleep and actually their bedroom is closer to the stairs than ours, and little things like that start to play on your mind and you feel insecure, you feel vulnerable, and I never thought I'd feel like that where we live.
Yeah, I think it is part of the fact that you feel actually targeted. I mean, we have a 5-month-old and we have a 3-year-old as well, and thankfully they found the keys. Had they not found the keys, that's what starts playing through your mind, and that's what you start worrying about what if.
Until you are a victim of this type of car crime, you may never have thought about the dilemma over what to do with your keys. Mark and Katie left the keys for their 2 Volkswagens out on display. In hindsight, they're glad they did this, rather than run the risk of having intruders come upstairs to find what they're looking for.
I'd rather have a financial impact on the family than a psychological impact on young children and the rest of the family. I feel that because of the car that I chose to buy, I've put our family almost at risk for having that car there.
Yeah. You haven't.
And that weighs heavily on my mind at the moment. So for someone just to come in, take the car and disappear, then at least the kids don't know that anyone came into the house. We've just told them that someone came and took the cars off the drive, they're none the wiser. So for me, had they come into the house, the kids woken up, there'd been an altercation, whatever happened, I'd much rather be in a financial situation that I can't get out of than a psychological situation that we could have been facing.
Both families are considering buying old cars so they don't get broken into again.
I don't know what we're going to replace our cars with. Do we just buy cheap, old cars to get us from A to B? I've always liked my cars, it's one thing I enjoy. But after this, I don't want to put my family at risk.
It's kind of, what have we got to where we actually have to start compromising how we live our lives because of the way other people will take advantage?
For Mike, who had a Mercedes C-Class and had previously been a victim of car theft, what surprised him was what he thought was a lack of police interest.
The frustration really is a sense that not a lot seems to get done to actually prevent anything like this happening again. This time, it's almost like the police are apologetic and literally sat there apologising and frustrated and explaining how their day's been and how they wish they could investigate real police crime. But unfortunately, they're having to do, in this case, it was part of the job of the ambulance service, because they were actually taking people to the hospital because there wasn't enough people in the ambulance service that day. And they have to sit there in A&E with somebody who's waiting to be seen rather than actually going out and helping other people.
Greater Manchester Police told us that, with a reduction of almost a quarter of the force over the past few years, and more serious and complex crimes, we are making tough decisions on a daily basis about how we prioritise our resources. We have to focus on the crimes that represent the greatest threat, harm and risk to the people in our communities. They went on to say,
our resources cannot always be focused on crimes where there is less vulnerability, such as some car thefts, meaning some victims won't receive the response they expect. That doesn't mean that victims of vehicle crime aren't important to us.
Police numbers and the money forces receive has dropped by nearly a fifth in the last 8 years. And the idea that police are so busy with other work that they haven't time to investigate more traditional types of crime is a claim made by experts.
The vast majority of day-to-day police work is not directly concerned with crime. So it's not just about cuts to the police. Where there have been cuts to all of their partner services locally, you've got a lot of police officers who are tied up because they are waiting for an ambulance or social services or someone from mental health services to come and assess someone. They are in charge of someone who is vulnerable and they cannot responsibly leave them in order to deal with crime.
And research supports the fact that the police have other priorities. The Press Association looked at Home Office data and found with 3/4 of all car thefts, cases were closed with no suspect identified. Sentencing information from the Office of National Statistics can also be used to rank crimes by order of importance. While murder comes out on top, it turns out that car crime ranks very low and could be the reason why they're not investigated.
The list goes from homicide, obviously, and that is scored at about 8,000. And then the list goes right down to 5. And in that group of offences, which go from 5 up to 100, you've got most of the offences that the public is likely to experience, including car crime, and the only car crime that goes above 100 in this scoring system is aggravated vehicle theft. That's where violence is used to secure the car. Everything else scores on the lowest possible scoring system that the police are supposed to be responding to, so they're not getting looked at.
The issue of police priorities was in the spotlight last week when Sarah Thornton, the National Chief Police Council's chairwoman, said that forces should focus more on burglary, which is often part of car theft.
All policing is under great stress and strain, and we're not able to do some of the basics. So we've got to prioritise solving burglary and reducing violence ahead of those sorts of things.
But a new type of car crime is emerging, which is likely to be even less of a priority because the thief doesn't even have to break into a house first.
Back in the 80s and 90s, when teenagers were twocking, that's taking a vehicle without the owner's consent, they were hot-wiring cars like this in order to steal them. Then, in the 90s and noughties, cars like this had alarms and immobilisers, and that made them much harder to steal, and the crime rate went down. And now things have changed again. In modern high-end cars like this, and a lot of new cars, the key doesn't actually have to go into the ignition to start the car, and that can make them very vulnerable to theft.
Neil Horsburgh loves his Audi, but the model he's driving now wasn't his first. This time last year, he owned a car that really was his dream car.
My Audi A5 was my pride and joy. It was a car that I bought probably due to having a midlife crisis, I suppose. It was something that just always made you happy.
But last December, after a holiday in America, he returned to find that his car had gone.
After realising the car wasn't there, I checked to see if anybody had broken into the house, and I checked to see whether I still had the car keys hidden where I'd hidden them. And yes, I had all my sets of car keys, and that was when I learned about relay theft.
Relay theft is where two criminals work in partnership to steal a car. As this CCTV shows, it's fast and silent. It doesn't require any car keys or any need to force the locks and windows. Just black boxes bought off the internet. Thatchams is an engineering facility that tests all makes of cars for their safety and security. They showed us how easy it is to quickly steal this Volvo. Imagine this is your car key on a table in your hall. The first offender simply holds a device near the front door, whilst the other picks up the signal. Within seconds, your car has been started and stolen.
So Richard, what have we just seen there?
So essentially there's two bits of kit. One goes by the key, one goes by the car. The bit by the key boosts the signal from the key to the car, makes the car think the key's much closer, so it will open, you can get in, you can start the car, and off you drive.
Clive Wayne is a former senior police officer who now works for a company that tracks cars if they are stolen.
For many years, Clive, it seemed that it was the cheaper cars that were more at risk of being stolen because they were easy to get into, but it now seems that the more modern cars are actually the ones that seem to be most vulnerable.
Absolutely. For many years, particularly the more prestige manufacturers have focused more upon passenger comfort. Unfortunately, over a number of years, organised criminality has been very resourceful and reverse engineered much of the technology that's been put in place to the point now where you're absolutely right, some of the more high-end executive vehicles are actually easier to steal than perhaps a cheaper brand of vehicle that's out there on the market.
I went to meet a former prolific car thief who confirmed how easy it is to steal a car by this method.
How long does it take to get the cars in this way?
Well, it's like having the key, isn't it? So, there you go.
Just literally let yourself in and off you go?
Yeah, off you go.
But what really surprised me was how easy it was to buy this relay equipment off the internet. And the price.
An electronic key programmer can be bought as little as 60 quid, and a relay box, 30 quid.
That's staggering. And is it easy to find online, presumably?
Very easy to find online.
Would you be able to show me now?
Yeah.
We're not obviously going to show the website, but you're just looking on.
Yeah.
Okay, you've already done that. That's just taken you seconds. And
Yeah.
£32.
Yeah.
And you found it for me straight away?
Yeah, straight away.
Audi told Tonight that it takes the illegal use of radio path lengthening systems very seriously, are working with the authorities and continually improving their security measures to prevent it. Volvo said relay theft is extremely rare, can affect any model of car, but new cars are more secure than ever. Volvo uses industry standard technology and applies advanced encryptions to limit any remaining risks. They will continue working to improve vehicles in line with technological developments. Audi and Volvo are only two of a long list of recently manufactured UK cars to be found vulnerable to relay theft. ADAC, the German equivalent of the AA, have been testing cars since 2015 to see which ones are vulnerable. The majority of manufacturers have been tested, and many of their models. In all, ADAC have tested over 180 cars, and 178 failed.
Wir verwenden hier einen selbstgebauten Reichweitenverlängerer und überprüfen, ob man das Funksignal des Schlüssels bei den Keyless-Systemen verlängern kann. Fahrzeuge, die jetzt auf den Markt kommen, mit Keyless-Systemen, die nicht sicher sind, werden vermutlich in der Versicherungseinstufung teurer werden, weil das Diebstahlproblem ja immer größer wird.